Thank you so much for joining us yet again on these episodes of God's Love in Action. I'm your host, Justus. In our previous episodes, we've been able to learn so much from people who have demonstrated their love to God through action. And this week is no exception. Today, we have another interesting story from the Bible, actually in the New Testament. We want to look at one woman who demonstrated her love to God in a very strange but significant way. And so, to help me discuss this and more, I want to welcome my guest, Pastor William Bagambe. Welcome, Pastor.
Thank you, Justus.
This particular story we are talking about, you would love to call her the Alabaster Woman. This is the woman who crashed a party that had been organized for Jesus and his disciples in the house of Simon the leper. This woman just appeared from nowhere. Who is this particular woman exactly that had the guts to crash such a party without an invitation?
You see, Justus, I am glad you are bringing it up. But quite a number of Gospels speak of this woman, but they don't give her the name. Only John mentions the name Mary.
Right.
But the woman comes from a place that is not mentioned. But how she got to know Jesus was even in the house of Simon, I am not aware. But see, that's what it takes when you are desperate and you need Jesus. Don't begin inquiring and asking for excuses. When Jesus is somewhere,
Yes.
just get to him. Get to him anyhow. Like this woman did. This was a serious gate crasher. Yes.
She clearly was not invited in this party, to this particular party.
Now, when your situation is so bad, Justus, and you need Jesus, you don't need to wait for an invitation. No, neither do you need to wait for an appointment. Yes.
And based on what transpired at the dining table, it is evident that this woman knew who Jesus was, because when she walks in, she goes straight to Jesus himself.
You're very right, because there are quite a number of people in the party, in the dining room.
Yes.
And the majority of them were men, and Jesus was. But when the woman comes, she goes straight to where Jesus was. That tells you the woman was aware. She knew who Jesus was, and she could identify Jesus. She could differentiate Jesus from others. She knew how Jesus was and how Jesus looked like. That is very, very important. And probably many of us don't pay attention to that part of the story.
How significant is it to have that clear picture of who Christ is in our lives today?
Especially when you are looking for Christ and you know what Christ has done for you, and you know what Christ wants you to do. And again, you get to a place where Christ is among so many people. The clarity you have for Christ will help you to identify and work with Jesus based on what Jesus Christ says. So when you have Christ in mind, you are able to listen to his voice. You are able to follow his commands. You are able to do his will. Yes. Right. Yeah, it is very important to be clear-minded about who Jesus Christ is.
When you read John chapter 12 from verse 3, you get that Mary took about a pint of pure nard, an expensive perfume. She pours it on Jesus' feet. Pastor, I was trying to find out what is the most expensive perfume today. I got some
it took a good step.
some crazy, stuff on the internet.
Perfumes can be very expensive.
One of them was, they were referring to it as Golden Delicious $1 Million Fragrance. And as the name suggests, you would imagine the cost of that small bottle is $1 million for a fragrance, for a perfume.
$1 million.
Yes, $1 million
That's a lot of
for
money.
perfume. And
About how much is that in Kenya shillings?
100 million.
100 million. 100 plus, actually.
100 plus
Yes.
million.
Eh, eh,
And that is how far this woman went.
Yeah.
This was not just an ordinary perfume that she was pouring on the feet of Jesus. It was an expensive perfume.
Yes. I'm glad you have done some research, even to help us to understand what it meant, what the action the woman took. You see, for you to get such a perfume, you needed to have taken some time working, saving. Those are savings.
Right.
The woman is using her savings. The woman took time to look even for the perfume. Because look at the perfume you are talking about. It is not even common.
It is not.
It's not. Some of these good things and expensive items are not very common. They are placed in some places where people with money find them. They are not thrown on the streets. You have to be very intentional to work with God. This woman went through some process.
The cost of this particular perfume could as well have been a year's,
Year's income.
income.
Yes. This was a real gift. It was a real gift. You see, when someone is gripped by the love of God, he does not just give anything. There is what we call planned giving. Planned giving. Even in the church, we have planned giving, where you need to sit down and plan the gift you are going to give to the Lord. Can you imagine? Jesus was given to us as a gift. But when you read scripture, like we said in the previous discussions, he's a lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Planned. Yes. Planned. You know, when you want to work with God, you have to have that idea of planning. What plan do you have in your heart? How are you planning to work with God? This is exactly what is happening with this woman.
Good.
Yes.
And then the next bit is even more interesting, Pastor. After she pours this perfume on the feet of Jesus,
Yes.
she does something that you will not expect from a woman especially.
Yes.
She uses her hair.
Hello.
You and I know what hair means to women.
Yeah, sure.
She uses her hair to,
To wipe. Yes, that's what the Bible
feet
says.
of Jesus.
Yes.
And I'm imagining those feet were not as
They were in sandals, actually, not in shoes.
Yes.
Yes, they are
So
all the time in
they
sandals.
were dusty feet.
It takes faith, and it takes love, and it takes understanding of what you're doing. Look at this woman. She goes and buys a very expensive item, so to say, perfume. She comes, puts it on Jesus Christ's feet. She does not stop there. She goes down with her hair on Jesus' feet. All that is loving Jesus. All that is putting love, God's love, into action. I mean, the woman has no other choice. In fact, according to some history, this is a woman who must have encountered Jesus before.
Yes.
Yes, based on the way she behaved. She had encountered Jesus Christ before. Some people say this was the woman who was forgiven, who was caught in an act, and whatever it is, anyway. But the point is, the woman knew Jesus, and she was aware of what Jesus was capable of doing. And so she's pouring herself before Jesus. In fact, she's the right place of a sinner, because the right place of a sinner is at the feet of Jesus.
I mean, for her to have sacrificed these two things, one, the most expensive, perfume, pouring it down on the feet of Jesus Christ, and using her own hair,
yes,
to wipe the feet of Jesus. It looks like this woman, her heart was really in connection with Jesus, that she was willing to put it all.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes.
For the sake of her her love for
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
Is it like we said? Love is not just spoken. No. Love is done. It is action. It is action. You see how far the woman has gone? By the way, she has gone through all the security systems. Because I'm sure they are in the house.
Yes.
And all the disciples are around. Simon's house probably had some members who would not even allow in anyone. But this woman beat all that security system until she got to Jesus Christ. I mean, it took her something.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
As a result of this particular perfume, the whole house is filled with fragrance.
That is very interesting. Yes. The fragrance. You know, when you break perfume, especially of this much, of this cost,
Right.
there is always some fragrance that will feel. This fragrance was also very important in the Old Testament. When the sacrifice was done, it was this fragrance that moved up. And this was the most important thing that was needed from the sacrifice. And so this fragrance is so important. But what is the significance of this fragrance? You see, as believers, actually, when you give something, have you ever visited a giving church? In a giving church, there is some fragrance. People who are used to giving to the Lord, they give whatever they have to the Lord. You'll find joy with them. You'll find them praising. You find them loving one another. You find them doing mission. They are witnessing for Christ. They are bringing more members into the church.
There is fragrance.
That fragrance, yes, that fragrance, that even when you get into the church, you feel you are in the church. That's the fragrance we are talking about. And we have not done anything until that fragrance comes into the church.
As good as this fragrance was,
Yes.
unfortunately, it did not go well with most of the people in this room. In this particular room.
Yes.
We want to talk more about that.
Yes.
But let's take a short break.
Yes.
After the break, we'll be looking at that and more. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the show. This is God's Love in Action. Pastor, before the break, we have seen the actions of this woman,
Yes.
the one you call the Alabaster Woman.
Yeah.
She has broken the most expensive perfume on the feet of Jesus. The fragrance can be, everyone can smell the fragrance in the room.
Oh, yes.
Unfortunately, the people in the room seem not to be happy, one of the actions of the woman.
When you take a step to Jesus, those who are not for Jesus will not love you. In fact, if you are loved by Jesus' enemies, then will doubt your faith. You are supposed to be hated by those people who hate Jesus. If you love Jesus, you'll be hated by people who hate Jesus. Or people who don't understand Jesus. Yes, they will never understand. But look at this scenario. They are right in the house. And in the house you have disciples. In the house you have Simon.
Yes.
You have people right there. When the woman comes and breaks the perfume, I mean, Judas, one of the disciples,
Right.
makes a statement. In fact, Judas looks at it as a waste. Can you imagine? A waste. And then he puts a statement and he says, I wish, why all this waste? This thing would have been sold and the money given to the poor. As if he meant that. You see,
But
everybody.
it looks like a very noble suggestion here.
Sometimes not all suggestions are noble. In fact, let us be very careful with some people. Some people may bring even suggestions when actually the suggestions are intended to just benefit themselves. Look at this guy. How much money did Judas really swindle from the treasury? We cannot tell. This man was money possessed. I'm not sure he even meant what he was suggesting. Some guys only speak things just here. But when it comes to the real meaning, they mean something else.
Even the owner of the house, Simon the leper himself,
Yes.
Was also not so amused by this act. In fact, for him, he was so interested in the fact that this was a sinful woman, and Jesus was not even supposed to associate with this particular woman because she was sinful.
Some people call this guy Pharisee, this Simon. I don't know how far true that was. But there are some people who are always holier than thou. These are very dangerous guys. For instance, Justus, who doesn't know that actually Jesus came for sinners? Who doesn't know that? To the extent that when you see Jesus with a sinner, then you begin to blame Jesus or the sinner. I mean, he came for the sinner. This is exactly what Jesus said when he was in the house of Zacchaeus. He came to save the lost. And here, the Simon, the leper, is blaming. He's saying, no, I wish Jesus knew the woman she's dealing with. He's dealing with. But the point is not even about that. Jesus is already receiving the woman, and he has already received the woman. But there are always some groupings. Some of these groupings. Look at this group now. Check the group of Judas,
Yes.
who are mindful of the money. Check the group of Simon, who is now blaming Jesus for dealing with sinners. Now, we have all these groupings even in the church. These groupings are there. But my brothers and sisters, we need to take it very seriously with God. If it is time for someone to say thank you to the Lord, it does not matter who that person is, whether a sinner or you. But who is not even a sinner in the first place? In fact, the more someone draws nearer to Jesus, the better she becomes.
In fact, I see these groupings actually trying to sabotage these women's stewardship efforts.
Yes. The groupings are actually total against. Yes, they are sabotaging the moves. But fortunately, the woman is already at the feet of Jesus. Yes, that's the best thing. Nobody would take her away.
Jesus,
he
as
had.
all this was going on, taking place,
Yes.
he heard what people were saying, and he could read their minds.
Yes.
And he had to respond.
Yes.
I love his response. Aware of this, Jesus said to them, "Why are you bothering this woman?
Yes.
She has done a beautiful thing to me.
The
Poor you will always have with you, but you will not always have me." Jesus is literally defending this woman,
yes,
who everyone seems to be accusing of one thing or the other.
You see, Jesus is right. The woman has done something right to run to Jesus with that gift. Jesus has seen the heart of the woman. Nobody is aware of the heart of this woman except Jesus. By the way, Jesus also mentioned that to Simon, said, "Simon, since I came into your house, you have not even given me water to wash my feet. But look at this woman." Now, by the way, when you look at the situation right in the house, it is only this woman who is dealing with Jesus. It's only this woman who has washed Jesus' feet. It's this woman who has given a gift to Jesus. In other words, the only woman you see worshiping in this house, it is only this woman you see worshiping in the house. Not even Simon. Simon is only there to complain. The disciple Judas is also making his own statements. There is nobody paying serious attention to Jesus, working with Jesus, except this woman. You see, right in the church, you may see some situations, whereas some people may be there, others will be complaining, others will be blaming, others are doing other things. There are very few people who pay attention to the Creator and worship. The woman has come to show her love, to put her love into action. But the rest of the groupings are doing the opposite. I would request that we learn this lesson from this woman. Deal with Jesus. Don't mind even about what others are saying.
Does this pastor speak to the fact that there's a possibility that we are too comfortable because we think we are close to Jesus, in one way or the other as Christians or people in the church? We feel we are too close to Jesus that until, there's a level of familiarity that we don't take advantage of the things that we ought to be doing when we are next to Jesus Christ.
Yes, sometimes.
And if probably, just like the woman who was not part of the invitees,
Yes.
comes and does what these disciples ought to have been doing.
Yes.
Is it a message to us that if we don't do it when we have the opportunity, it doesn't mean that some won't come from somewhere else and do the same thing?
Let me tell you, when you fail to do the right thing, don't think everybody is going to fail. There will be someone who will come and do it. And we have to be very careful at the people who come the last minute. They come when they are ready to do something right. And by the way, based on your comment, you have not done anything good with Jesus until you put his love into action. Yes. You have not done anything with Jesus until you put his love into action. It is love in action. Yes, exactly. This is exactly what the woman has done. And the previous discussions, we have seen how people have been putting God's love into action. God's love into action.
Jesus also made another statement,
Yeah.
a follow-up on this.
Yeah.
that
Yes.
about this particular woman.
Yes.
That the act of this woman,
Mm-hmm.
as a result of what she had done, I think it's the very reason why we're actually discussing this woman today.
Yes, Jesus said, this woman, what this woman has done, will be told wherever the gospel will be preached. When you put God's love into action, when you give something, you are making a legacy. You are leaving a legacy behind, even if you go away. Yes, you look at some people whose names are mentioned up to today. People are remembered because of what they did, much more because of what they did. Because if you just speak and stop there, the air will take away the words. But actions are as permanent as the tablets of stones. Because look at what Jesus did for us. When heaven gave us the gift of Jesus, up to today, we are rejoicing and we are talking about the action of heaven.
Yes.
So this woman, up to today, we are talking about her because of what she did. Actually, if you have not done something, there's no reason your name should be mentioned. Yeah.
Thank you, Pastor.
Yeah.
Your final thoughts on this. What, from all this that we have been able to get from the story, what stands out for you that the viewer should go home with?
What stands out for me, dear viewers, is that when you are desperate, like we are, let us run to Jesus Christ, no matter the circumstances. Secondly, when you get to Jesus, we must be able to transact business the Jesus' way. We must be able to translate God's love into action. And that's what Jesus Christ wants. And when that one is done, then we will leave a legacy like the woman did.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you so much,
You are
Pastor.
welcome.
If Jesus were to talk about you as an individual, what comments would he say? Can Jesus say you have done beautiful things to him? Have you put his love in action? That's all we have had time for, and we believe and hope that through this, you're going to exercise God's love and put it in action. Until next time, God bless you.